Hey everyone, welcome back to CT Fulcrum. In today's video, we will be discussing the Knights of the Old Republic comic series, published by Dark Horse Comics and written by John Jackson Miller. I will do a deep spoiler-filled dive in another video, with my thoughts on each individual arc and more, but this video will be a shorter, non-spoiler review. Let me just start off by saying I absolutely loved this comic series. The characters, the stories, the comedy, the lore, the action, the slight hints at other events, the cool cameos, and so much more. Something to note as well, I would say I read this comic from a unique perspective, as I have never ever played the Kotor or the Old Republic games. I do know bits and pieces of certain well-known characters, of course Darth Revan, Darth Malak, but I was mostly reading from a fresh mindset. The main protagonist is Zane Carrick, and unlike many other Jedi protagonists, he's not naturally gifted, he's not a chosen one, he doesn't have a high affinity to the Force, he's mostly just a failure who is made fun of by almost everyone. He struggles a lot throughout the series trying to grasp the Force, and a lot of the time it ends in comedic failures. But his character development and growth throughout is some of the best I've seen in Star Wars. No, he doesn't go from a typical failure to a god tier character, nothing like that at all, but he does improve, not just in fighting ability, but more importantly in his mentality and his morals. There is a certain thing that he will never do, and he makes that clear again and again, even though he is tempted and put into situations where it feels like he must cross that line. I will say, if you're expecting to see some Skywalker or Yoda type Jedi, Zane is not that. He is a low-level Jedi, and is mocked by his fellow Padawans and his master Lucian on a regular basis. But his chemistry with the companions that he meets along his journey, mainly being Marn Hieroglyph and Jariel, or Jarael sometimes known as, make for an exciting and action and drama-filled adventure. Each of these three characters start off really hating each other, but as the series goes along, they begin to become a true team who care and protect about one another. I like the seeds of romance they put into this comic series as well. There are hints of Zane's past relationship with a certain character, as well as hints of a possible future relationship with another. I like the subtlety at which they go about it, because let's be honest, Star Wars isn't well known for its romantic arcs. They haven't really nailed that on the head. I won't say too much more of his close companions, Jarael the Arcanian offshoot and Marn Hieroglyph the Snivian con artist, but just that they definitely add a lot to the story in unique ways. There is of course cameos made by Darth Malak, Darth Revan, but this is before they fell to the dark side. In fact, Malak does make quite a few fair appearances throughout, and you can see how his passion begins clouding his judgment, and that slowly derailing him to the dark side. There is a Mandalorian and Jedi war going on, which you know is always going on in the background, but it also takes the forefront in some arcs as well, which was super cool to see. The split of the Jedi Order between finding the Sith and fighting the Mandalorians is seeded in as well, as we see the differing ideologies between the Jedi that come into contact with Zane. There is so much variety, honestly. There is an arc on slavery, an arc on a Nazi-type leader, and how racism is entangled between a non-human species. There is an arc of Sith artifacts, the role of Jedi Seers is discussed in great deal, and the reasoning behind the Jedi Covenant. There is a Mandalorian who questions his side in the war as well as a Jedi who joins the Mandalorians against their own. It's just awesome, and the grey line in war between good and evil is widely explored on both sides of the conflict. There are characters you'll absolutely hate to start with, but by the end, you'll have some compassion towards their character and what they've gone through and how they've transformed. But again, let me be frank, every arc won't be about the war. There are arcs about much smaller things in the galaxy, and while to some, these arcs may seem a bit slow, I found them unique and interesting. I don't always need to see some full-scale, full-fledged war or battle. Sometimes seeing the smaller, more compact stories are a breath of fresh air. And that is probably the best phrase to describe this comic series, a breath of fresh air. It is 50 issues long, but it's not super wordy. There are a lot of pages with just panels of environments, such as the lightsaber chase in the space scene. Yeah, you heard that right, lightsaber in space, but I won't say any more. Also, I will probably make a video on the essential arcs to read and what you can skip. I would definitely highly recommend this series to anyone, even if you haven't played the games such as myself. I understood basically everything, and if not initially, then it was explained later on. And come on, the Old Republic timeline is just too cool not to read about. I am currently making immersive audio comics on this series on my channel. You can check these out if you'd like an easier and more enjoyable medium with voice actors, sound effects, and music. All in all, I loved this comic series, and as I reached the end, I got a tear in my eye knowing the journey with these characters was over. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did, and if you have any questions about it, just ask below. Until next time, the Force will be with you. Always.